The auction hall was loud and dirty. It smelled like sweat, metal, and fear. Hundreds of aliens from different planets stood in the crowd. They were rich, they were powerful, and they were here to buy slaves. The building was on a space station called Dark Point. It floated in a part of the galaxy where no laws existed. Here, anything could be sold. Weapons, drugs, people. No one cared about right or wrong. Only money mattered. Yuna stood at the back of the crowd. She was small compared to most aliens around her. She was human. And humans were not common in this part of space. Most aliens looked at her with surprise or disgust. Humans were considered weak. They had no claws, no wings, no special powers. They were just soft creatures from a small blue planet. But Yuna did not care what they thought. She had come here for a reason. She was a mechanic. She fixed things. Broken ships, damaged robots, old machines that no one else could repair. She was very good at her job. Her hands were rough from years of work. Her clothes were simple and stained with oil. She had saved every credit she earned for 5 years. Every single one. Today, she would spend it all. The auctioneer was a fat creature with 4 arms and green skin. His name was Boko, and he was famous for selling the best slaves in the sector. He stood on the stage and smiled at the crowd. His teeth were yellow and sharp. "Welcome, welcome, my rich friends," Boko said. His voice was loud and oily. "Today we have something very special. Something you have never seen before. Something that will make you the envy of the entire galaxy." The crowd whispered. Everyone leaned forward. Boko clapped his 4 hands together. The curtain behind him opened. 2 guards walked out. They were dragging something between them. No, not something. Someone. The crowd gasped. Then, they started to laugh. It was a Drakari. A dragon. But not just any dragon. This one had golden scales that should have shined like the sun. But now they were dull and cracked. His wings, which should have been wide and powerful, hung broken at his sides. Metal chains wrapped around his body. A thick collar sat around his neck. But the worst part was his back. His spine had been replaced with cybernetic parts. Machine pieces, mixed with flesh. And those machine parts were broken. Sparks flew from the metal. Wires hung loose. He could barely stand. The dragon fell to his knees on the stage. His head hung low. His long black hair covered his face. But Yuna could see his eyes. They were golden, like his scales. And they were filled with pain, and shame. And something else. Pride. Even now, there was pride. "This," Boko announced, "is Prince Teho of the Drakari Empire." The crowd exploded with noise. Some laughed harder. Some shouted insults. Some just stared in shock. The Drakari were the most feared warriors in the galaxy. Their empire spanned 1,000 planets. Their princes were said to be gods among mortals. They could breathe fire hot enough to melt starships. They could fly faster than any machine. They were perfect. But this prince was broken. "How the mighty have fallen," someone shouted. "Look at him. He cannot even stand. His wings are useless. He will never fly again. I would not pay 10 credits for this garbage." The laughter grew louder. Aliens pointed at Teho and mocked him. They threw food at him. They spat at him. Teho did not move. He did not react. He just knelt there, his broken body trembling with the effort of staying upright. The chains were heavy. The pain was worse. But he would not give them the satisfaction of seeing him fall completely. Yuna watched all of this. Her hands tightened into fists. Her heart beat fast. She had heard stories about the Drakari prince. Everyone had. 6 months ago, there was a great battle. The Drakari Empire fought against a group of rebels. Prince Teho led the attack. He was winning, but someone betrayed him. Someone from his own family. They sabotaged his ship. They broke his spine. They sold him to slavers while he was unconscious. When he woke up, he was already in chains. The galaxy thought he was dead. The Drakari Empire announced his death with great sadness. But he was not dead. He was here. In this dirty auction hall, being laughed at by creatures who were not worthy to speak his name, Boko raised his hands to quiet the crowd. Now, my friends, I know he looks damaged. But think about it. A Drakari prince, even broken. He is a trophy. Imagine having him serve drinks at your parties. Imagine making him clean your floors. The prince who once commanded armies, now your personal slave. More laughter, more insults. Let us start the bidding, Boko said. Who will give me 1,000 credits? Silence. Boko's smile faded a little. Come now. 1,000 credits for a prince? He is worthless. Someone yelled. His spine is destroyed. He will die in a week. 500 credits, another voice called out. It was a fat merchant with too many rings on his fingers. I will use him for parts. Dragon scales sell well on the black market. Yuna felt sick. They wanted to kill him and sell his body. 500 credits, Boko said, his voice less cheerful now. Anyone else? 500 for a Drakari prince? 600. Another voice. This one belonged to a tall alien with red skin. I run fighting pits. Even broken. A dragon might last a few rounds. Good entertainment. They wanted to make him fight until he died. For fun. 600 credits. Do I hear 7? The crowd was quiet. No one wanted to pay more for a broken slave. Teho lifted his head slightly. His golden eyes scanned the crowd. He saw the fat merchant who wanted his scales. He saw the pitmaster who wanted his blood. He saw hundreds of faces filled with greed and cruelty. He had accepted his fate. He would die here, far from his home, far from his people. He would die as a slave, not as a prince. The betrayal still burned in his heart. His own cousin had done this to him. His own blood, but he would not beg. He would not cry. He was still Teho. He was still a prince. Even in chains. Even broken. Even at the end. 600 going once, Boko called. Going twice. 50,000 credits. The voice was quiet. But it cut through the noise like a knife. Everyone turned to look. The crowd parted. And there stood Yuna. Small, human, alone. Boko stared at her. His 4 eyes blinked in confusion. I am sorry. Did you say 50,000? Yes, Yuna said. Her voice was calm and steady. 50,000 credits. All I have. The auction hall went completely silent. No one laughed now. No one spoke. They just stared at the tiny human woman who had just bid more money than most of them made in a year. The fat merchant's mouth hung open. The pitmaster looked furious. Boko looked like he might faint from happiness. Teho lifted his head fully. He looked at the human. She was looking right back at him. Her eyes were dark brown, almost black. They were not filled with greed. They were not filled with cruelty. They were filled with something he had not seen in a long time. Kindness. 50,000 credits, Boko shouted, finding his voice again. Do I hear more? Anyone? 50,000 going once. Going twice. No one spoke. The price was too high. No slave was worth that much, especially not a broken one. Sold, Boko screamed. Sold to the human. The crowd erupted. But this time, they were not laughing at Teho. They were laughing at Yuna. Stupid human. She wasted her money. He will die before she gets him home. Humans are so foolish. No wonder they are so weak. Yuna ignored them all. She walked forward, through the crowd, up to the stage. She was so small next to the guards. So small next to the auctioneer. So small next to the broken dragon on his knees. She stopped in front of Teho. He looked up at her. Their eyes met. Why? He asked. His voice was rough, broken. He had not spoken in weeks. Why would you waste everything on me? Yuna looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was a small smile. Gentle. warm. Because, she said softly, where I come from, we do not leave anyone behind, not even dragons. She held out her hand to him. Tejo stared at her hand. It was small, calloused, human. It was offering him something he thought he had lost forever. Hope. Slowly, painfully, he reached out. His clawed hand wrapped around her small fingers. And for the first time in 6 months, Prince Tejo of the Drakari Empire did not feel alone. Getting Tejo out of the auction hall was not easy. He could barely walk. Every step sent pain shooting through his broken spine. The cybernetic parts sparked and crackled. His legs shook, his wings dragged on the ground behind him. Yuna did not rush him. She walked slowly beside him, letting him lean on her shoulder. She was small, and he was huge, but she did not complain. She did not let him fall. The crowd watched them leave. Some still laughed, some whispered, but most just stared in confusion. They could not understand why a human would spend everything she had on a broken dragon. Outside the auction hall, the space station was even worse. The streets were narrow and dirty. Criminals walked everywhere. Dangerous aliens watched from dark corners. This was not a safe place for anyone, especially not for a small human and a wounded dragon. Yuna had a small transport ship docked at the station. It was old and ugly. The paint was chipped. The engine made strange noises. But it flew. That was all that mattered. "This is your ship?" Tejo asked. His voice was still rough. Speaking was difficult. "Yes," Yuna said. "I know it does not look like much, but I built most of it myself. It will get us home." Home. Tejo had not had a home in 6 months. He did not know where this human was taking him. He did not know what she wanted from him. But right now, he was too tired and too broken to care. He just wanted to rest. Yuna helped him onto the ship. The inside was small but clean. There were tools everywhere. Machine parts. Wires. Screens showing technical data. It looked like a workshop. More than a living space. "Sit here," Yuna said, guiding him to a large chair. "I need to check your injuries." Tejo sat down heavily. The chair groaned under his weight. Dragons were heavy, even thin and starving ones. He leaned back and closed his eyes. The pain was constant now, a dull ache that never stopped. He felt small hands touching his back. Yuna was examining his spine. Her fingers moved carefully over the broken machinery. She did not flinch at the blood or the exposed wires. She just studied everything with focused eyes. "Who did this to you?" she asked quietly. Tejo was silent for a long moment. The memories were painful, more painful than his wounds. "My cousin," he finally said. "His name is Junho. He wanted the throne. He knew my father would choose me as the next emperor. So he decided to remove me." Yuna's hands paused. "Your own family?" "Yes." Tejo's voice was bitter. "He sabotaged my ship during the battle. When I crashed, his soldiers were waiting. They broke my spine so I could not fight back. Then they sold me to the slavers." "And your father? The emperor? He thinks I am dead." Junho told everyone I died in the battle. A hero's death. Tejo laughed. But there was no humor in it. "Instead, I have spent 6 months being passed from one slaver to another, each one hoping to sell me for a fortune. But no one wanted a broken dragon." Yuna was quiet. She continued examining his spine. The damage was severe. Most of the cybernetic parts were ruined. Whoever had installed them had done a terrible job. It was like they wanted him to suffer. "Can you fix it?" Tejo asked. He did not expect her to say yes. No one could fix this. He had accepted that he would never walk properly again. Never fly again. Never be whole again. "I do not know yet," Yuna said honestly, "but I will try." Tejo opened his eyes and turned to look at her. "Why? Why are you helping me? You spent everything you had. You have nothing left. And I have nothing to give you in return. I am not a prince anymore. I have no power. No wealth. No army. I am just a broken slave. Yuna met his gaze. Her dark eyes were calm and steady. Do you want to know something about humans? She asked. What? We are considered the weakest species in the galaxy. No claws. No wings. No special abilities. Other races have ruled the stars for thousands of years. We only left our planet a few hundred years ago. Everyone thinks we are nothing. Tejo nodded slowly. This was true. Humans were often overlooked or dismissed. They were seen as prey, not predators. But do you know how we survived? Yuna continued. How we spread across the galaxy, even though we are so weak. Tejo shook his head. We help each other, Yuna said simply. When one of us falls, others lift them up. When one of us is broken, others fix them. We do not abandon our own. Ever. That is how humans survive. That is how we thrive. But I am not human, Tejo said. I am a dragon. Your people and my people have never been allies. We have never even spoken much. You are a person, Yuna said. That is enough for me. Tejo did not know what to say. In his entire life, no one had ever helped him without wanting something in return. Power, wealth, favors. Everyone always wanted something. But this small human wanted nothing. She just wanted to help. It was strange, and terrifying, and beautiful. The ship's engine hummed to life. Yuna moved to the pilot's seat and began pressing buttons. The station grew smaller in the window as they flew away. Where are we going? Tejo asked. My home, Yuna said. A small planet called Terra 7. It is in human space. Nothing special. Just a colony world. But it is safe. And I have my workshop there. Askana's planet. See. Askana's planet. What will you do with me? Yuna glanced at him over her shoulder. I am going to fix you. Then you can decide what you want to do with your life. Stay or go. Fight or hide. It will be your choice. And if you cannot fix me, Yuna turned back to the controls. Then at least you will have a warm bed and good food while you heal. That is more than those slavers would have given you. The journey took 3 days. During that time, Yuna took care of Tejo like he was the most important person in the universe. She brought him food. She cleaned his wounds. She adjusted his broken spine so the pain was not so bad. She talked to him too. She told him about her life. About growing up on Terra 7. About learning to fix machines from her father. About losing her parents in a pirate raid when she was 16. About surviving alone ever since. Tejo listened. He had never really listened to anyone before. As a prince, people always talked at him. Not with him. But Yuna was different. She did not treat him like a prince. She treated him like a person. Slowly, carefully, he began to talk too. He told her about the Drakari Empire, about the pressure of being a prince, about always having to be perfect, strong, fearless. He told her about his mother, who had died when he was young, about his father, who was a good emperor, but a distant parent. About Junho, who had once been his best friend, before jealousy poisoned his heart. Do you hate him? Yuna asked. Junho? Tejo thought about it. I did. When I first woke up in chains, I hated him more than anything. I dreamed about revenge, about burning him alive, about watching him suffer like I suffered. And now, I am just tired. Tejo sighed. Hate takes energy. I do not have much left. Yuna nodded. She understood tiredness. She understood loss. She had felt both many times. On the 3rd day, they arrived at Terra 7. It was a small planet, covered in green forests and blue oceans. Nothing like the grand worlds of the Drakari Empire. But it was peaceful, quiet, safe. Yuna's home was a small building on the edge of a town. Half of it was living space. The other half was her workshop. Machines and tools covered every surface. Spare parts filled every shelf. It smelled like oil and metal. It is not much, Yuna said, suddenly looking embarrassed. A prince probably thinks it is. It is perfect. Tejo interrupted. He looked around at the small, cluttered space. It was warm. It was real. It felt more like a home than his palace ever had. Thank you, Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, but it lit up her whole face. You are welcome. Now, let us get to work. I need to see exactly how bad your spine is. She guided him to a large table in the workshop. It was designed for machines, but it was strong enough to hold a dragon. Tejo lay down on his stomach, exposing his back. Yuna pulled out her tools. She turned on bright lights. She put on special glasses that let her see small details. Then she began to examine his spine piece by piece. It took hours. The more she looked, the angrier she became. The cybernetic work was terrible. Wires were crossed. Connections were wrong. Some parts were not even compatible with dragon biology. It was like someone had built his spine while blindfolded. Whoever did this should be in prison, Yuna muttered. They did not care if I lived or died, Tejo said. They just wanted to keep me alive long enough to sell. Yuna took a deep breath. She had a lot of work to do. It would take weeks, maybe months. Some parts she would have to build from scratch. Some connections she would have to completely redesign, but she could do it. She was sure of it. I have good news and bad news, she said finally. Tell me. The good news is that I can fix this. Your spine, your wings, everything. It will take time, but I can do it. Tejo felt something he had not felt in 6 months. Hope, real hope. And the bad news? Yuna looked at him with serious eyes. It is going to hurt. A lot. I do not have fancy medical equipment. No sedative strong enough for a dragon. You will have to stay awake through all of it. Tejo was silent for a moment. Then he laughed. A real laugh this time. Pain does not scare me, he said. I have lived with pain for 6 months. A little more will not break me. Yuna nodded. She had expected that answer. Dragons were tough, and this one was tougher than most. Then we start tomorrow, she said. Tonight, you rest. You eat. You sleep in a real bed for the first time in months. And tomorrow, we begin putting you back together. Tejo looked at this small human woman. She was nothing like the people he had known his whole life. She was not powerful. She was not wealthy. She was not important by any measure the galaxy used, but she was kind. She was determined. And she believed she could fix him when no one else did. For the first time since his betrayal, Tejo felt something warm in his chest. It was not just hope. It was something else. Something he could not name yet. He did not know that this small human mechanic would change his life forever. He did not know that her kindness would reshape the entire galaxy. He did not know that their story was just beginning. All he knew was that tonight, he would sleep without chains. And tomorrow, he would start to heal. That was enough. The repairs began the next morning. Yuna woke up early. She prepared her tools. She reviewed her plans. She had stayed up most of the night studying dragon biology from old books and research files. She wanted to understand everything before she started cutting. Tejo was already awake when she entered the workshop. He was sitting on the table, looking at the tools lined up beside him. Scalpels, wires, metal plates, welding equipment. It looked more like a torture chamber than a medical room. Are you ready? Yuna asked. No, Tejo admitted, but let us begin anyway. The first day was the hardest. Yuna had to remove all the broken parts from his spine. Every piece that the slavers had installed wrong had to come out. There was no gentle way to do it. She had to cut. She had to pull. She had to dig into his flesh and metal. Tejo screamed. He could not help it. The pain was beyond anything he had felt before. His claws dug into the metal table, leaving deep scratches. His whole body shook. Fire leaked from his mouth as his dragon instincts tried to protect him. But Yuna did not stop. She could not stop. If she left the work half done, he would die. So she kept going, hour after hour, piece by piece. Talk to me, she said while she worked. Tell me about your home. Tell me about your palace. Through the pain, Tejo forced himself to speak. He described the golden towers of the Drakari capital, the mountains that breathed smoke, the sky filled with dragons flying in formation. He talked about festivals where fire dancers performed, about ancient temples where his ancestors were honored, about the great library that held knowledge from 1,000,000 years. His voice helped him focus. It gave him something to hold on to besides the pain. And Yuna listened to every word, even as her hands stayed steady and her tools kept working. By the end of the first day, all the broken parts were out. Tejo's back was a mess of wounds and exposed wires, but it was clean, ready for rebuilding. Yuna bandaged him carefully. She gave him food and water. She helped him to a bed in the corner of the workshop. She had set it up just for him, with extra blankets and pillows because she noticed dragons liked warmth. Rest, she said. Tomorrow we continue. Tejo was too exhausted to argue. He closed his eyes and fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. The days that followed were all the same. Wake up. Eat. Endure hours of painful repairs. Rest. Repeat. Yuna worked with incredible skill. She did not just fix his spine, she improved it. She found better materials. She designed better connections. She studied how dragon bodies moved and built parts that worked with his natural biology instead of against it. Where did you learn to do this? Tejo asked one day, while she was welding a new metal plate to his spine. My father taught me, Yuna said. He was a mechanic too. The best on Terra 7. He used to say that every machine wants to work. Our job is just to help it. And you think I am a machine? Yuna smiled. I think you are part machine now. The rest of you is dragon. But the principle is the same. Every broken thing wants to be whole again. I am just helping you get there. Tejo was quiet for a moment. Your father sounds wise. He was. Yuna's voice was soft. He died 10 years ago. Pirates attacked our colony. He was trying to protect our neighbors. He did not survive. I am sorry. Me too. Yuna's hands never stopped moving. But I remember what he taught me. I remember his kindness. And I try to live the same way. That is how I keep him alive, in my own way. Tejo understood. He thought about his own mother. She had died when he was very young. A sickness that even the best doctors could not cure. He barely remembered her face. But he remembered her warmth, her gentleness, the way she used to sing to him when he was scared. Maybe that was what family really meant. Not blood, not power, just memories and love, passed down through generations. Weeks passed. Slowly, Tejo began to heal. His spine was almost complete. The pain was less constant now. He could sit up by himself. He could stand for short periods. His strength was returning, but his wings were still broken. That was the next challenge. Dragon wings were complicated. They were not just bone and skin. They had special muscles that no other creature possessed. They had tiny scales that could shift to control flight. They had nerve endings that let dragons feel the wind and adjust their movement in milliseconds. The slavers had torn Tejo's wings when they captured him. They wanted to make sure he could never escape. The damage was severe. Most doctors would have said repair was impossible. Yuna did not say that. Instead, she spent 3 days just studying his wings. She made drawings. She took measurements. She ran tests. She talked to Tejo for hours about how flight felt, how his wings moved, how he controlled them. I have never seen anything like this, she admitted. Dragon wings are beautiful. The engineering is perfect. Millions of years of evolution created something incredible. And now they are ruined, Tejo said bitterly. No, they are damaged. That is different. Yuna looked at him seriously. Ruined means beyond repair. Damaged means there is still hope. There is always hope if you are willing to work for it. She began the wing repairs the next day. It was even more delicate than the spine work. She had to reconnect hundreds of tiny muscles. She had to rebuild the framework that gave the wings their shape. She had to create new scales from special materials that could mimic the old ones. Teho watched her work whenever he could. Her focus was incredible. She would work for 10 hours without a break. Her hands moved with precision that he had never seen. Even in the best Drakari craftsman, she never gave up. She never complained. She just kept working, problem after problem, piece by piece. "You are amazing," he said one night. When she was finally taking a break, Yuna looked up, surprised. Her face was tired. There were dark circles under her eyes. But she smiled. "I am just stubborn. My father always said I was the most stubborn person he ever met." "No," Teho insisted. "It is more than that. You have a gift. The way you see problems. The way you solve them. The way you never give up. It is rare, even among dragons, who are supposed to be the greatest warriors in the galaxy. I have not seen determination like yours." Yuna did not know what to say. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Most people barely noticed her. She was just a mechanic. Just a human. Just a small woman on a small planet, fixing broken things that no one else wanted. But Teho saw her. Really saw her. And it made her heart do strange things. "Thank you," she said quietly. "That means a lot." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, the stars were bright. Terra 7 had 2 moons, and both were visible tonight, hanging in the sky like silver coins. "Can I ask you something?" Teho said. "Of course. Why were you at that auction?" "On Dark Point Station. You said you saved for 5 years. But you did not know I would be there. What were you planning to buy?" What?" "I would be there." Yuna was quiet for a long moment. She had not talked about this with anyone. "I was going to buy my brother," she finally said. Teho's eyes widened. "Your brother? His name is Hanuel. He is 2 years younger than me. When the pirates attacked our colony, they killed my parents. But they took Hanuel. He was only 14. They sold him as a slave." Yuna's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "This was painful to talk about. I have been searching for him ever since. Every credit I earned, I saved. Every piece of information about slave markets, I collected. I finally found out he was going to be sold at Dark Point, so I went there, ready to buy him back, ready to bring him home." Teho felt cold, but he was not there. "No." Yuna's eyes were wet now. "When I arrived, I learned he had been sold a week earlier. To someone in the outer systems. I was too late. And then you saw me." "Yes. I saw you on that stage. Broken. Alone. Being laughed at by everyone. And I thought, I could not save my brother. But maybe I could save someone else. Maybe I could do something good with the money I had saved. Maybe Hanuel would want me to help you." Teho did not know what to say. This woman had given up her only chance to save her brother. For him, a stranger, a dragon who meant nothing to her. "Yuna," he started. "Do not say anything," she interrupted. "Do not apologize. Do not feel guilty. I made my choice. And I do not regret it. Not for 1 second. But your brother, I will find him." Yuna's voice was firm now. Determined. "I will save more money. I will search more markets. I will never stop looking. But I could not walk away from you. I could not watch them kill you for entertainment, or cut you apart for your scales. I just could not." Teho reached out and took her hand. His clawed fingers were huge compared to hers. But he held her gently, like she was the most precious thing in the universe. "Then I make you a promise," he said. "When I am healed, I will help you find Hanuel. I do not care how long it takes. I do not care how far we have to travel. I do not care how many enemies we have to fight. We will find him together." Yuna looked at him. Tears were running down her face now, but she was smiling. "You do not have to do that," she said. "I know." Teho squeezed her hand. "But I want to. You saved my life. You gave me hope. You treated me like a person when everyone else treated me like garbage. This is the least I can do." They sat there for a long time, hand in hand, looking at the stars. Two broken people who had found each other in the darkest place in the galaxy. Two souls who understood loss, and loneliness, and pain, and hope. They both understood hope now. Yuna wiped her eyes and stood up. "Enough rest. I want to finish your wings tonight." Teho smiled. "Then let us get to work." She worked through the night. And by the time the sun rose over Terra 7, the last connection was complete. The last muscle was attached. The last scale was in place. Teho's wings were whole again. He stood in the morning light, feeling them move for the first time in 7 months. They responded perfectly. Every tiny adjustment he wanted, they made. They were not just repaired, they were better than before. Yuna stood back and watched him. She was exhausted. Her whole body ached. But she was smiling. The biggest smile Teho had ever seen. "Try them," she said. "Really try them." Teho spread his wings wide. They caught the light, golden and magnificent. He took a deep breath, and then he flew. Teho rose into the sky like a golden arrow. The wind rushed past him. The clouds parted around him. For a moment, he forgot everything. The pain, the betrayal, the months of suffering. He was flying. He was free. He climbed higher and higher. The small town below became tiny. The forests became green carpets. The oceans became blue mirrors. He could see the whole planet spreading out beneath him like a painting. Then he dove, straight down. Faster and faster. The air screamed around him. His wings pressed tight against his body. At the last second, he pulled up, skimming just above the trees, sending leaves flying in all directions. He flew for an hour. Maybe 2. He could not stop. He had forgotten what this felt like. The freedom. The power. The joy of the sky. Every dragon was born to fly. Being grounded for 7 months had been worse than the physical pain. It had felt like part of his soul was missing. But now he was whole again. Finally, he landed back at Yuna's workshop. His heart was pounding. His body was shaking. But not from pain. From happiness. Yuna was sitting outside, drinking tea. She looked up as he landed, his huge wings folding gracefully behind him. She smiled. "How does it feel?" she asked. Teho walked toward her. He was crying. He did not care. Dragons were not supposed to cry. They were supposed to be strong, fearless. But right now, he did not feel like a dragon. He felt like a person who had been given a second chance at life. He knelt in front of her, his head bowed low. This was the deepest sign of respect in Drakari culture. Princes did not kneel, ever. But Teho did it willingly, gladly. "I owe you my life," he said. "More than my life. You gave me back my wings, my freedom, my hope. I do not have the words to thank you." Yuna put down her tea and stood up. She placed her small hand on his shoulder. "You do not owe me anything," she said gently. "But if you really want to thank me, there is something you can do. Anything. Fly me around the planet." Teho looked up, surprised. Then he laughed. A real, happy laugh. "That I can do." He lifted her carefully onto his back. She held onto his shoulders, her heart beating fast. She had never flown before. Humans did not fly. They built ships and machines. But this was different. This was real flying. With nothing between her and the sky, Teho rose gently, careful not to scare her. But once they were high enough, he asked, "Ready?" "Yes." And then they flew, really flew, fast and wild and free. Yuna laughed and screamed and held on tight. She had never felt anything like this. The wind in her hair, the sun on her face, the whole world spinning beneath her. They flew over mountains and valleys, over rivers and waterfalls, over towns and farms where people looked up and pointed at the golden dragon in the sky. They flew until the sun began to set, painting everything in shades of orange and pink and purple. When they finally landed, Yuna's legs were shaking. But she was smiling so wide her face hurt. "That was amazing," she breathed. "I understand now. I understand why dragons love to fly." Tejo smiled at her. "Thank you for reminding me why I love it too." They went inside and had dinner together. Simple food, nothing fancy, but it felt like a feast. They talked and laughed and told stories. It felt like they had known each other for years instead of just a few weeks. That night, Tejo made a decision. "I need to tell you something," he said. Yuna looked at him, worried. "What is it?" "I have been thinking about what comes next. My spine is healed. My wings work. I am strong again, strong enough to fight, strong enough to fly back to the Drakari Empire." Yuna felt her heart sink. She knew this was coming. He was a prince. He had a home, a life. He could not stay here forever. "I understand," she said quietly. "You should go back, expose your cousin, take back what is yours." "That is what I thought at first," Tejo said. "But the more I thought about it, the more I realized. I do not want revenge anymore. I do not want the throne. I do not want to go back to that life." Yuna stared at him. "What?" "Being a prince was never my choice. I was born into it, expected to be perfect, expected to lead, expected to conquer. But I never asked if that was what I wanted. I just did what I was told." Tejo took a deep breath. "These weeks with you, they showed me something different. A different way to live. Simple, kind, meaningful. You help people not because you want power, but because it is right. You work hard not for glory, but because you love what you do. That is beautiful to me." "So what are you saying?" "I am saying I want to stay here, with you." Tejo's golden eyes were intense. "I want to help you with your work. I want to learn what you know. I want to find your brother. I want to build a life that means something real." Yuna did not know what to say. A Drakari prince wanted to stay on her tiny planet, wanted to work in her small workshop, wanted to be with her. "But your empire, your father, your people?" "My father has Junho now. The empire will survive without me. And as for my people..." Tejo shrugged. "Maybe I can help them more from here. Maybe I can show them that there is another way. That strength does not mean cruelty. That power does not mean domination." Yuna was quiet for a long time. Her mind was racing. This changed everything. She had assumed he would leave. She had prepared herself for the goodbye. But now, "Are you sure?" she asked. "Really sure? Because once you make this choice, everything changes." "I have never been more sure of anything in my life." Yuna looked at him. At this dragon, who had been broken and abandoned, who had suffered more than anyone should suffer, who had every reason to be bitter and angry and vengeful, but instead, he chose kindness. He chose simplicity. He chose her. She smiled. "Then welcome home." The weeks that followed were the happiest of Tejo's life. He learned to work with his hands, not fighting, not killing, creating, building, fixing. It was hard work, but it was satisfying in a way that war never was. He helped Yuna in the workshop. He carried heavy equipment. He used his fire breath to weld metal. He used his keen eyes to spot tiny problems she might miss. They made a good team. Word spread through the town that there was a dragon living with the mechanic. At first, people were scared. Dragons were feared across the galaxy. But Tejo was different. He was kind, polite. He helped old people carry their groceries. He played with children who wanted to see a real dragon. He never showed anger or violence. Slowly, the town accepted him. He became Yuna's dragon. People waved at him when he walked down the street. Shop owners gave him free food because he always helped carry heavy things. Children followed him around, asking questions about flying and fire and the stars. Tejo loved it. He had never been part of a community before. In the palace, Everyone bowed and feared him. Here, people treated him like a friend, a neighbor, a person, but not everyone was happy about the situation. Far away, on Dark Point Station, a message was received. A spy reported seeing a golden dragon flying on Terra 7, a dragon matching the description of the slave sold months ago. The message reached Boko, the auctioneer. His 4 eyes went wide. The dragon had been healed. That changed everything. A broken dragon was worthless. But a healthy Drakari prince? That was worth a fortune. More money than Boko had ever imagined. He needed to get that dragon back. Boko contacted the buyer, searching his records. A human mechanic named Yuna. She had paid 50,000 credits. That contract was complete. But there were loopholes, gray areas, ways to take back a slave if the original seller claimed the product was misrepresented. It was shady, probably illegal even by Darkpoint standards, but Boko did not care. He gathered a team. Mercenaries, bounty hunters, dangerous aliens who would do anything for money. He loaded them onto a ship and set course for Terra 7. Back on the planet, Tejo and Yuna knew nothing of this. They were busy planning their search for Hanul. Yuna had gathered information about the outer systems. There were several slave markets that might have records, several planets where he could have been taken. It will take time, Yuna said, looking at the star charts. Months. Maybe years. I told you I would help, Tejo replied. I meant it, however long it takes. Yuna smiled at him. These past weeks had been wonderful. Having a partner. Having a friend. Not being alone anymore. Sometimes she forgot he was a dragon prince at all. He was just Tejo, her friend, her companion, maybe something more, if she was honest with herself. But she pushed that thought away. There would be time for that later. 3 days later, the ship arrived. It landed outside the town without warning. 20 armed mercenaries stepped out. Boko followed them. His 4 arms carrying a legal document that was probably fake. The townspeople ran. They had no weapons. No defenses. This was a peaceful colony. They had never needed to fight. Boko smiled as he walked toward the workshop. He could already taste the money. Yuna heard the commotion and ran outside. She saw the mercenaries. She saw the weapons. She saw Boko's ugly smile. Her heart stopped. No, she whispered. Tejo appeared beside her. He had heard everything. His eyes were cold now. Hard. He had been a warrior once. He remembered how to be one again. Stay behind me, he said quietly. There are 20 of them. I know. Tejo stepped forward. His wings spread wide. His scales began to glow. Deep in his chest, fire was building. I am done running. I am done being afraid. If they want to fight, I will give them one they will never forget. Boko stopped walking. The smile faded from his face. The broken dragon was broken no more, and he looked very, very angry. Tejo stood in front of the workshop, his golden scales catching the sunlight. His wings were fully spread, making him look twice as large. His eyes burned with cold fire. He was not the broken slave they remembered. He was a Drakari prince in his full power. Boko's confidence wavered. But he had 20 armed mercenaries. And he had come too far to give up now. Prince Tejo, Boko called out, his voice trying to sound friendly. What a pleasant surprise. You look much better than before. Leave this planet, Tejo said. His voice was calm, deadly calm. Now, I am afraid I cannot do that. Boko held up his fake document. You see, there has been a mistake. The sale was not properly completed. According to Galactic commerce law, you are still property of Darkpoint Auction House. I am simply here to collect what is mine. Behind Tejo, Yuna stepped forward. He belongs to no one. I paid fairly. The contract was legal. Boko smiled his ugly smile. The contract was for a broken dragon. This dragon is clearly not broken anymore. That changes the terms. The product was misrepresented. That makes no sense, Yuna said. It does not have to make sense. I have 20 guns, and you have none. That is all the law I need out here. The mercenaries raised their weapons. Energy rifles. Plasma cannons. Enough firepower to destroy the whole town. Tejo did not flinch. I'm going to give you one more chance. Leave now. Or die here. Boko laughed. Kill him. The mercenaries opened fire. What happened next was almost too fast to see. Tejo moved like lightning. He dodged the first shots and launched himself into the air. Fire erupted from his mouth, hot enough to melt steel. He swept across the line of mercenaries, and 3 of them disappeared in flames. The others scattered. They had fought many creatures. They had killed many enemies, but they had never fought a dragon at full power. They had only seen the broken slave on the auction stage. This was something completely different. Tejo landed in the middle of them. His claws slashed, his tail swept. His wings created gusts of wind that knocked mercenaries off their feet. He moved with grace and power that seemed impossible for something so large. One mercenary got behind him and fired. The plasma bolt hit Tejo's back, right where his spine had been repaired. He felt the impact. It hurt, but it did not stop him. Yuna had built that spine strong, stronger than the original. The mercenary's eyes went wide as Tejo turned and grabbed him by the throat. She rebuilt me better than I was, Tejo said. Her work is perfect. He threw the mercenary across the street. Within minutes, half the mercenaries were down. Some were dead. Some were injured. The rest were running. They had signed up to capture a slave, not fight a war. Boko watched in horror. His plan was falling apart. His mercenaries were being destroyed. His fortune was slipping away. Stop, he screamed. Stop, I will pay you. Double, whatever she paid. Triple, name your price. Tejo landed in front of him. The auctioneer fell backward, his 4 arms raised in fear. You want to know my price? Tejo asked. His voice was ice. You sold me like an animal. You laughed while people threw food at me. You would have let them cut me apart for my scales. There is no price high enough for that, Boko whimpered. Please. I was just doing business. Nothing personal. Everything is personal when it is your life. Tejo raised his claw. Tejo, wait. It was Yuna's voice. Tejo stopped. She walked forward, stepping over groaning mercenaries. She was calm. Steady. She stopped beside Tejo and looked at Boko with eyes that held no fear. Killing him will feel good for a moment, she said. But it will not change anything. It will not heal the pain. It will not undo the past. It will just make you like him. Tejo's claw stayed raised. His whole body was shaking with anger. This creature had humiliated him, tortured him, tried to kill him. Every instinct screamed for blood. But Yuna's hand touched his arm. Small, warm, gentle. You are better than this, she said softly. The dragon I know does not kill for revenge. He is kind. He is strong. He is good. Do not let this creature take that from you. Tejo closed his eyes. The fire inside him slowly dimmed. The rage faded. He lowered his claw. You are right, he said. He is not worth it. Boko sobbed with relief. Thank you. Thank you. I will leave. I will never come back. I promise. You will do more than that, Yuna said. Her voice was hard now. You will go back to Dark Point. You will find every slave you have sold in the past year. You will provide their locations to the proper authorities. You will help free them. I cannot do that. It would ruin me. Yuna leaned down close to his face. You can do that. Or you can find out what happens when a dragon decides to visit Dark Point Station personally. Your choice. Boko looked at Tejo. The dragon's eyes were cold. Waiting. Fine, Boko gasped. Fine, I will do it. I will help free them. Just let me go. Yuna stood up. Get off my planet. If we ever see you again, we will not be so kind. Boko scrambled to his feet. He ran to his ship, not even bothering to collect his surviving mercenaries. Within minutes, the ship was lifting off, flying away as fast as its engines could carry it. The town was quiet. Smoke drifted from the battle. Injured mercenaries groaned on the ground. The townspeople slowly emerged from their hiding places. Then someone started clapping. It was an old man. He was clapping his hands together, smiling at Taeho and Yuna. Others joined him. Soon the whole town was applauding, cheering. Children ran forward to look at the defeated mercenaries. "You saved us," someone shouted. "The dragon protected us." 3 cheers for Yuna and Taeho. Taeho stood still, overwhelmed. He had expected fear, hatred, disgust. That was what he was used to. Instead, he received gratitude, acceptance, love. Yuna smiled up at him. "See? This is what you can be. A protector. A friend. Not a conqueror. Not a killer. Something better." Taeho looked at the cheering townspeople, at the children who were not afraid of him, at the old man who had started the applause. Something changed in him that day. The last piece of his old life fell away. He was not Prince Taeho of the Drakari Empire anymore. He was just Taeho, mechanic's assistant, protector of Terra 7, friend to humans. And that was enough. The news spread quickly. A golden dragon living on a human colony. A dragon who protected people instead of attacking them. A dragon who worked with his hands and helped his neighbors. At first, it was just a curiosity. A strange story for people to share. But then more stories came. Stories about Boko's records being released, about hundreds of slaves being found and freed, about families being reunited. One of those families was Yuna's. A month after the battle, a transport ship landed at the colony. Yuna was working in her shop when someone knocked on the door. She opened it and froze. A young man stood there. He was thin. His eyes had a haunted look, but his face was familiar. So familiar. "Yuna?" he whispered. "Hanyol?" She grabbed him and held him tight. Both of them were crying. 10 years. 10 long years of searching, of hoping, of refusing to give up. "They found me," Hanol said through his tears. "They said a dragon and a mechanic made the auctioneer release his records. They said you never stopped looking for me." "I never did," Yuna sobbed. "I never stopped. I promised I would find you." Taeho watched from inside the workshop. His own eyes were wet. He remembered Yuna's story. Remembered how she had given up her chance to save her brother to save him instead. And now, because of that choice, both of them were saved. Humans were amazing. They never abandoned anyone, even dragons. Hanel stayed on Terra 7. He was broken in his own way, after 10 years of slavery, but Yuna was good at fixing broken things. And now she had help. The 3 of them became a family. Strange and unusual. A human mechanic, her rescued brother, and a dragon prince who chose love over power. They worked together. They healed together. They built a life that was simple and good and meaningful, and the galaxy watched. Other dragons heard the stories. Some came to visit. They saw Taeho living peacefully among humans. They saw his happiness, his purpose, his freedom. Some of them stayed. They learned that there was another way to live. That strength did not mean violence. That power did not mean domination. Humans heard the stories too. They learned that dragons could be friends, partners, family. The old fears began to fade. New connections formed. Years later, historians would say that this was the beginning of peace between dragons and humans. The beginning of a new era in the galaxy. But for Taeho and Yuna, it was simpler than that. It was just love, found in the darkest place, grown in the quietest corner of the galaxy, strong enough to change everything. On quiet nights, they would sit outside and watch the stars. Sometimes Hanul joined them. Sometimes they were alone. They would talk about the past, about the future, about nothing important at all. I still cannot believe you bid 50,000 credits for me, Tejo said one night. You had never even met me. Yuna shrugged. I saw someone who needed help. That is all I needed to know. But what if I had been a monster? What if I had hurt you? Then I would have been wrong. Yuna smiled. But I was not wrong. Was I? Tejo looked at her. This small human woman who had saved his life, who had rebuilt his body, who had shown him a better way to live. No, he said, you were not wrong. He took her hand. She leaned against his shoulder. Above them, the stars burned bright. Everyone had mocked the injured dragon prince at auction. They had laughed at him, dismissed him, written him off as worthless. But a human mechanic saw something else. She saw a person worth saving. And her bid did not just buy a slave. It bought a friend, a partner, a future. It changed everything. And in the end, that was the most human thing of all.